Good night, this is Fumi's Sleepy Time Stories. Tonight's bedtime story is about to begin.
Though told as a fairy tale, this story walks a darker path, where blood may spill and shadows linger. Gentle reader, tread carefully. In a garden in the kingdom of Roquefort lived two monstrous old ladies with matted and scraggly hair, wrinkled, pale, and lumpy faces, crooked mouths, goat beards, and a hunchback, and hooked feet. To hide from the sun, they lived holed up in a basement under the king's windows, but they complained of continually hurting themselves, of scratching themselves, of always being bothered by something. Since they complained about everything, the king thought they were delicate and soft, and was curious to find out who these girls with such delicate skin were. He began to say, "Where are you hiding, jewel, wonder, delight? Uncover yourself to the sun. Do not hide from my sight. Let me hear your voice." But the old women had blocked ears. This increased the king's longing, gripped by the torture of love, who began to look for the key to open the little box of jewels that were denied to him. He continued to send supplications, but in vain. The old women decided not to let this bird escape, who asked for nothing better than to be trapped. So they promised him, speaking through the keyhole, that in 8 days they would show him their little finger. The king, who, as an expert soldier, knew that fortresses are conquered little by little, accepted the proposal, hoping to conquer, one finger at a time, the fortress. So he waited 8 days to discover the 8th wonder of the world. In the meantime, the old ladies sucked their fingers to decide which of the two had the smoothest, to show it to the king. The king counted the days, the nights, the hours, and the minutes, praying to the sun to rise soon, and to the night to let him see the light, to time not to walk with lead shoes. The long-awaited hour finally arrived, and the king himself went to the garden and knocked. The elder of the two put her finger in the keyhole, and it became for the king the match that kindled his desires, the stick that stunned his thoughts. She held it in her hand and kissed it, and filled it with sweet words. "Why are you so hard and obstinate, that you will not be moved by my complaints? If you have shown me your finger, now you can show me your face and make me delight. Come out of this pigsty and take me. I am the king and can give you everything, but I still want to ask of you by kindness what I could take by bad." The old woman, in the voice of a flayed cat, said, "My lord, deign to come down from the scepter to the stable, from pomp to rags, for I will no longer oppose the wishes of a great king. But I ask you, even though I am ready to fulfill your desires, as a pledge of affection, to be received in your bed on the wedding night without a candle, because I do not have the courage to show myself naked." The king swore that he would grant her request. When night came, the old woman, having pulled off all the skins from her body and tied them behind her shoulders, tying them with string, arrived in the dark at the king's house and, accompanied by the valet into the royal chamber, took off her rags and threw herself naked into bed. Meanwhile, the king had perfumed himself so much that he could not smell the stinking breath and the odor of old age of that ugly little thing. As soon as he lay down and began to caress her, he noticed at once that her skin was withered, flaccid and full of blisters. He still did not want to say anything. He was shocked, but he did not want to say anything for the moment. To make sure of the fact better, he pretended not to notice. As soon as the old woman fell asleep, the king lit a little flame, and under the sheets he did not find a nymph, but a harpy, and he became so furious that he asked his servants to throw her out of a window. The poor woman reminded him that it was not she who had deceived him, because it was he who had wanted all this. But she could not avoid the punishment. Luckily, with all her tangle of hair, she fell into a bramble bush and was almost unhurt. In the morning, some fairies who had never spoken or laughed passed by. Seeing the old woman hanging, they first burst out laughing, then decided to give her each a spell and transformed her into a beautiful, rich, noble, and virtuous young woman, dressed in gold cloth and full of jewels, surrounded by many servants. In the meantime, the king had woken up and tried to find out what had happened to the old woman, and was left speechless contemplating that fine piece of girl, that hair that was the envy of the sun, those eyelashes that targeted hearts, those adorable eyes and lips. He also saw the luxurious clothes and rich jewels that covered her, and wondered what had happened to have made such a stupid mistake about the young woman. He ran into the garden and, throwing himself at her feet, confessed his ardent love, his longing. He asked her for pity and mercy, and begged her to leave him some hope. The woman finally accepted him as her husband. So they entered the royal palace, where a great banquet was immediately prepared, and all the noble women of the country were invited. Among others, the old bride wanted her sister to come, but it was very difficult to convince her and bring her to the banquet. She was so afraid. After she had convinced herself and seen her sister so transformed, she was happy with her good fortune. But the poor old woman was envious of her sister's beautiful features and her smooth, soft skin, and every now and then she asked her, "What have you done with the rind?" The king was amazed at these questions, but his bride told him that her sister wanted to taste some sauces. The old woman still asked embarrassing questions, and the bride, so as not to make the king understand anything, asked him to serve the sweets. The old woman, who was in anguish, asked new questions until her sister answered, "I have been flayed, my sister." The envious woman thought of trying her luck too, to enjoy her share of happiness. She immediately ran to a barber, gave him 50 ducats, and asked him to flay her from head to toe. The barber refused, thinking she was crazy, but the old woman convinced him by promising him a prize if she succeeded in her intent. She encouraged him to take up the scissors for the good fortune of both of them. The barber, after arguing and protesting, finally agreed. He tied her to a bench and began to make a mess of that black skin, while the woman, taking courage in herself, said, "Who wants to appear beautiful must suffer troubles and pains." The barber continued to ruin her by cutting her skin up to her navel. The poor woman lost all her blood, and with it, her strength, and discovered at her expense that envy destroys itself. The end.
you.